I thought I would make this video to show some of the things that as a manufacturer we have to deal with on a day-by-day basis. The sorts of things that you don't necessarily expect when you first go into business, but they start to dominate your daily life and the things that you have to deal with. This is a good example of that. I don't know if you're familiar with this type of connector. It's a secure push connector, so you push it together and then there's a locking ring to stop it coming apart. We don't design these sensors and we don't design the connector, but we do use this type of connector fairly extensively in the instrumentation that we develop, and we get an awful lot of these connectors being damaged through misuse. So I thought I'd make this video just as an interesting video to show the sorts of things that we come across. So the connectors are fairly straightforward. They're a low pin count, but they are intended to be sealed and also to make sure they can't be inadvertently pulled apart, because in our case at least we use these in critical systems where it's very important the systems are reliable and we don't get any failures. Now the way these are supposed to be used is, if you look at this enlarged image, you can see this is how the connector is supposed to look, and you can see there's a notch extending into the connector space. This particular connector has 5 pins, and the way they should be used is the connectors are brought together and you just gently rotate the body of the housing that the socket is on until you feel it go into place, which is there, and then without turning either the cable or the connector body you do up the locking ring. So, and that's how they're supposed to be used, and it stops it being pulled apart while it's in use. The problem we get is a lot of users will come across these and they want to remove the sensor for one reason or another, and rather than undoing the locking ring, what they will do is they will hold onto this and then they will turn the body of the housing, and that invariably does severe damage to the sensor. Now these particular sensors are about £1,000 each, and we get quite a few of these coming back. And with this type of damage, as I say, we can't control it, we don't design them, we don't design the connector. But they are industry standard connectors, so it's always a surprise. The most surprising thing is how much force people will apply to a product before they will accept the fact that they are doing something wrong. And they just, if it doesn't work at first, they apply more force. If that doesn't work, they apply more force. And some of the damage we see on here is fairly impressive. It's we've got some fairly beefy users, I assume, out there somewhere. I'll give you some examples of the sorts of damage that we see. This is one that we got back, and you can see there's only a single pin left. Again, I'll show you a close-up, and you can see that all the outer 4 pins have been sheared off, simply because the connector has been twisted around within the locking ring rather than the locking ring itself being rotated to free the connector. Another one we have, the pins are still partly there, but they're now in a spiral. Again, exactly the same thing. What's impressive with this one is you can see again in the enlarged image that the locating tab has been completely ripped off. Now it does take quite a bit of force to do that. I'm not quite sure who did it, but I think they've maybe spent too much time in the gym. But again, £1,000 a time, this is an expensive mistake to make. And then the final mode of failure that we tend to see results in this sort of damage. This is the PCB that was originally inside the housing, and what they've done in this case is they've tried to unscrew the connector, and instead of the connector breaking, what it's actually done is it's unscrewed itself from the body of the housing, and because the pins on the other end of the connector are soldered to the board, it's rotated the connector relative to the board and ripped the end of the board off. And again, that takes a lot of force to do that. So anyone watching this video, if you've got to go beyond a certain level of force, you're doing something wrong. These connectors are designed to be usable, so if you're having to put a torque wrench or use both hands to unscrew them, then you're doing it wrong. And I think that applies to pretty much anything. A short video does sort of show the sorts of things we come across. We get this type of abuse to systems quite frequently. We try to deal with it as effectively as we can, but it is one of the things that when you go into manufacturing that can take you by surprise as to the types of failure you get. We put an awful lot of time and effort into designing products that are ultra reliable, and we get almost zero natural failures. But we do get this type of failure where users have gone a bit overboard in their enthusiasm, and it does result in an awful lot of damage.